Hey everyone, it's Jughead here. Welcome back to my Let's Watch Hunter x Hunter series. Today we will be watching episode 75, Ging's Friends and True Friends. Just when they thought they were home free with the game in the bag, it's time to take another exam. For real, not a hunter exam. Our trio has already done that themselves. A Greed Island exam to attain that number 100th card. And I'm sure that then means players from all over are going to come after Gon and friends to fight or bargain their way to a complete book themselves. What cards is Gon, Killua, and Biscuit going to choose? Also, last episode for a split second, we saw Accompany with Hisoka. Let's see if we get any more developments with that. We have to. But the title of today's episode, Ging's Friends and True Friends. Oh, boy. True Friends. Killua and Biscuit for sure. I feel like that's straightforward. Got Gon to the finish line. But Ging's Friends. We know Ging isn't here, but people who know him are. That's good enough for Gon if they can share some clues or just, share some stories like Razor did. So without any further ado, tune into my full uncut reaction and stay for my in-depth analysis afterwards. So, Hunter x Hunter, episode 75 in 3, 2, 1, let's watch. I forgot, we ended right with everybody surrounding them. Are they vying for those 99 cards in that book of theirs? Or are they gathering for the exam, don't worry. Guy on the left is creepy, guy on the right looks like Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, with that bowl cut. We get the top score in the quiz and win the card. We want to sell it to you for $2.5 billion. Do they not know what happened with Patera? Yeah. That's a deal. Everybody's gonna be desperate. They know the game is ending. Nobody probably believed this day would ever come. Biscuit's left outs. True, they just came from a fight to the death and now they're facing the final game. Yep. Acting like kids again. I actually think Killua is really analytical and smart, but I feel like Killua is going to be the one to struggle in this quiz. While Gon might be the one to really succeed and come out with the top score. The one who's paid attention and really cared about playing this game, that he would remember the information and everything they went through. So they can all work together. I told you, Killua was already stumped on the first one. They don't even get to play the game. Who is this? Ooh, Accompany. He's gonna touch him. I found the bomber. Or, I caught the bomber. Now, the curse is released. That big-ass worm is finally off him. Still mysterious. Genther has no idea what just happened. Final question. E. Oh, okay. They didn't even. Isn't it Ruler's Blessing? Gon looks confident. I think Gon wins. He has to. That would be just how the story goes. And now maybe players are gonna come after him to take that card. Gon! How many did you get right out of 100? And everybody's so polite and kind, congratulating. Where are the assholes? They're gonna rain on the parade and try and kill him, or take the card or something. What is this, Harry Potter? A letter to Hogwarts? But a different castle? Ruler's invitation. Looks like only the one with the badge is invited. Limero. You can't use an Accompany card because you've never been there before. And the assholes have arrived. They don't know nothing about these kids. Mess them up, please. Why would you think the kids that gathered all 99 cards and the 100th one would not be strong enough to completely beat your ass? Like, you gotta be an extra dumbass to not think this was gonna happen. Yeah, you haven't been there before. What the hell is drift? Transfer you to previously unvisited cities. Ah. So they'll visit there, he'll come back, and since it's now a visited town, then they can all use Accompany to go there together, even though Gon is still the only one that can actually enter wherever he's going. Oh, there it is. So it is like a Hogwarts, but a different castle. The owl dropping off the envelope invitation. Now, how are they exchanging payment with all of them getting $1 billion? How does that work? I wonder if they'll ever meet each other again. But raw power gets beaten by a plan, strategy. Yep, they must have executed such a plan. That's Hunter x Hunter right there. Who we know is Hisoka. Abengain's all about that money. Yeah, I'll make a fortune exercising then. Going back to reality. Leaving this fantasy escapism game. The real fortune is actually in the real world. Using my abilities. Hisoka waiting for him. Who are we gonna see in here? More game masters, I assume. Is this a game master or a butler? Greed Island Castle. He looks so innocent. Such a tiny tie. Damn, bitch, you live like this? Don't tell me. This looks like a homeless Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop. If he was a homeless bum. Or a hoarder. Look at his face. Actually... Let me get another thing of his face. Where is he? I love the facial expressions. I'm waiting for a place to pause so I can see his face. Just scrounging for this random card that's just been sitting for who knows how long. Ruler's Blessing. The reward for the top score. There we go. There we go. There we go. Is this Tagashi? Because with the hair and there's a photo of Tagashi I've seen before where he is just surrounded by trash. in a horrible posture, sitting position, playing a video game. And there's a TV right here, and this guy is surrounded by trash with the same type of fro-y hair. Is this supposed to be Togashi? Is he making fun of himself? Which would be so hilarious. Like the joke of, no wonder Togashi's always gone on hiatus. He's written all the chapters, he just has no idea where he's put them all. Because look at all this goddamn trash. I have to go back. I have to go back because I'm just so caught up on this trash guy. Also, who knows how long they've been waiting for someone to finally win after a decade, no matter if they don't leave this building, this castle, all this trash that is accumulated with this card that they created a decade ago just sitting on the floor, waiting for somebody to win. Dwun? Dwun? What the hell kind of name is Dwun? Triggers a new event. But I can't judge these two people. Because these two people must know who Ging is. And they have to be game masters. So I can't judge this bum and this butler looking guy. The butler looking guy at least kind of looks the part, looks proper. But I can't judge Dwun, because he is friends with Ging for a reason. He could be a specialist for all I know. He could have an immensely useful Hatsu for creating this game. He is a game master. Can't take multiple copies of the same card, makes sense. 3 restricted slot cards. Do you want the normal? Ooh, anything from Ging? God damn it. Gon's so nice. Oh, okay. Again, prepared to give a message to the kid they knew was gonna win. List and Dwun. Friends of your old man. They know exactly who this kid is. Ging and his 10 friends. So they are friends of his. It's created from the first letter in... Oh. G for Ging. Razor for R. Etta. I'm assuming the two girls that look exactly the same are the E's. Yeah. Ita. Yeah. D. We don't know. Oh no, that's Dwun. Never mind. Dwun don't really fuck with Ging that much. Totally me. Would Dwun? Would Dwun. That's the craziest name I've seen. Who comes up with that? Yeah, even Ging was like, "We're gonna drop that W because I can't I get so excited anytime I see a young Ging. Flashbacks with some lore. They're in the entrance room. Your name is Dwun. Like it. Look at young Ging. No headband. Super young.
1分後には法的にも完全に名前を変えさせちゃったんだよね。電話とパソコンであっという間に。
He illegally changed his name.
でもそのおかげで運気が上がったんでしょ。
So, Greedislan. So there's 11. Oh yeah, Ging and his 10 friends. So there's 11 letters. We know Greed and list is the L in island. So we don't know all of the game masters, where they're at, what they're doing, if they're even still around, if they're needed for the game to function still, if they have roles. We don't know I, we don't know S, we don't know A, N, or the other D. So we don't know 5 other people, game masters that we will never meet because Greed Island is over. Oh, are they getting a parade? This is sweet. All the NPCs rooting for them. Reminds me of the end of like when you would win the first place, like the gold cup in like Mario Kart Double Dash, and you would have the parade. That's such a random pull from my memory. All 3 of them will get to choose a card. Nope, no stories. So, Biscuit will get a gem. I don't know what Killua will get. Gon really loves that Paladin's necklace. He might keep that. You two help me get to the finish line. Yes. There we go. Blue planet. What? What? You're only allowed to take restricted slot cards, not... Does that mean no spell cards? I forgot if spell cards are not restricted slot cards. Oh, so it is Paladin's necklace. What? What is the chameleon? I'm confused. I'm her right now. Yeah, let me in on this too. What is going on? What is their plan? Are they trying to take a spell card? I'm sure they see through this, but it's kind of like, this kid's resourceful. Patch of shore. Blue planet. Paladin's necklace. The patch of shore makes no sense. That has to be something else. The chameleon card or something. There's no way they don't see whatever he's doing. But again, they're probably like, hey, this is Jing's son. Gon remembers everybody. Oh, wait. Yeah, I can't tell either. True. Arguing semantics here. She wants that blue planet right away. She's in love. I'm gonna feel so sad saying bye to her. Like 15 plus episodes with this character I really love. And now we're gonna be separating. Going, I don't know where, after Greed Island. Another arc. Done. I don't know where we go. But it won't be with her. Hopefully we see her again someday. You guys would know. I would not right now. So they did smuggle out a card. They smuggled out Accompany. Huh. Yeah, because it reverts curses and stuff. So, yeah, why would you do that all for an Accompany? Is that so they can always travel somewhere together? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah. Gon was the first one in the game. He was the first one to enter the game. Yes, I remember that. And while I was waiting for Killua, no one else was around. Which means the first person I met in the game should have been the second one to go in. But it wasn't. Who's at the top of the list? There was someone I met before him. Has Gon been here before? Whoa! Whoa! Maybe do a different anagram. Or whatever that's called. Wow. Whoa, hey! Again, stop saying that. When I was a baby, I came here with Ging. Look how he's swaddled in just a cloth. He had to have just been born. Is Gon from Greed Island? No. This has to be created the game. The timeline is so confusing. Because it's still argued if he created the game for his son. So did Gon... Ging didn't plan to have Gon. So was Gon born and then he's... No. Or... I'm confused. How did he come here with Gon as a baby? If Gon is older... Man. That's interesting. He had to have been born, because he's like baby, still wrapped in a blanket, naked. Like no clothes, nothing. This is a fresh, newborn baby. So wherever he was born at, immediately traveled to Greed Island. They linked together, being in the game at the same time. And this had to have been before you could only enter the game with Nen and through a console, because there would have been no way for Ging to take the baby in with him until that was set. So this is still very early stages of the game, before it was complete. Oh my god. That hits me in the feels. He loves it though. I want to cry too, Biscuit. She's a little softy. This hardened warrior, mentor, but now a friend. I'm not interested in men who already have kids.
これ以上一緒にいたら本当に親の気持ちになっちゃう。
Really will get too attached.
それじゃあビスケ、元気でね。
Hope to see you again.
あんたたちもね。ありがとうございました。ボス。
Man, what an arc. Everybody tells me this is like one of the lower tier arcs in people's opinion. People don't really like it. Oh my god. They're going to Ging. Who are they going to see?
バイバイ。
Oh my god. This is the use of Accompany. Anybody they've ever met, they can now travel to. Who the hell is it? It's not going to be Ging. So who the hell is it going to be? No, we're not going to see it. Come on. Don't cliffhang me like this. Who the hell is that? So, let's discuss. This is going to be a really long discussion. I like how the episode immediately begins with tension. You have all these players surrounding Gon, Killua, Biscuit, and Garenu. What do they want? Why did they all teleport here at the same time? Are we about to have to defend ourselves? Is this about to be a 4 versus 20 or something? Are we still having the fight? But no. It's actually, if anything, the complete opposite. People are desperate, but the fighting's over. They're all here to try and make a deal or an agreement before the quiz begins. No fighting, just trying to squeeze in a last-minute handshake deal. They get approached with an offer. If we get the top score and win the card, we'll sell it to you for $2.5 billion. Reasonable, right? So only 5% of your reward. Perfectly reasonable deal. But there's a crucial information asymmetry here, I guess I would call it. Gon and Killua glance at each other. None of the other players know Batera has already canceled the mission. Only Gon, Killua, Biscuit, and Garenu are privy to this knowledge. They possess private info that literally renders any market price totally meaningless. If that other team wins the card, they think they're sitting on a lotto ticket, couple billion Jenny. But they'd soon realize they're asking for money that doesn't exist. They're trying to complete a mission that doesn't exist. They're overinflating the value of the card because they don't know the mission is void. The card is worthless. The boys agree to the deal because it doesn't matter. If the boys get the best score, they get the card. Cool. If they don't win the card, well, then this other group, Gon, Killua, Biscuit, and Garena, they still have all the other 99 in their possession. Okay. Advantage to them. While the others don't. And they have no reason to spend that much money on a card when that group over there might as well just, give it away because no one's going to match their offer. And they're the best chance that, they're the best bet they have, If anything, if Gon and Killua let everyone know, like, hey, if you were a part of, Batera's group that entered with us in Sesgera, that mission is canceled. You're not getting your money. So I'm sure all of those players would just, give up at that point and not even care about the exam. They'd head towards the exit. But Gon wouldn't do that because he would want to get the high score, fair and square, taking the quiz against all these players trying to do their best. And I really love how Gon and Killua didn't want to take the quiz together. They refused to band together and take the quiz as a group. They said they should do it by themselves. They insist on taking the quiz as friendly rivals. The two of them are always looking for fun competition amongst one another. Killua says, whoever scores lower should get penalized. That's the core of Greed Island's design. It's a contest, it's a crucible, but above all, it's a game meant to be enjoyed. Even after weeks and weeks on Greed Island, watching people get sacrificed and die, being chased and hunted down, getting hurt, risking their lives, just life or death struggles, they still don't want to finally end the game the easy way. It's still just all a game to them. They have witnessed the darkest extremes of the island. Yet, when offered a chance to shortcut the final challenge by pooling their resources, 2 brains, 3 brains, 4 brains are better than 1, they refuse. They crave the thrill of some competition. And that's not stubbornness. That's just an affirmation of what makes them who they are. Children at heart. Lovers of challenge and discovery. For them, Greed Island isn't just some, mechanistic trial and opportunity for, some fame or fortune or power. It's a playground and a proving ground, an arena where every test, risk, and reward is and has been an invitation to learn more about themselves and each other. It's healthy competition that has honed their skills since the very beginning. Even Biscuit remarks, they just came from a fight to the death, and now they're facing the final event in the game with such confidence. I bet those two enjoyed the game more than anyone. And that's precisely what Ging wanted. Remember when Gon first arrived to Greed Island? The message Ging left for Gon essentially just told him to have fun, play the game, get the most out of it. And that's exactly what Gon and Killua did. I wouldn't call it astonishment. It's more like just admiration from Biscuit. She's a seasoned Nen user, hunter. She's so strong and experienced, and she probably can't wait to get up out of here. But she admires the youthful spirit and energy of these two she got to witness. These gems that have gotten some polishing. These kids who will grow up to be amazing hunters, whatever path that might be. Biscuit, the stern mentor who drove them to exhaustion on multiple occasions, now recognizes that their greatest strength is their joy in the process of growth itself. Biscuit's words are also kind of like a meta commentary on the Greed Island arc itself. Togashi designed the Greed Island arc to emphasize not only Nen's mechanics, but the emotional and philosophical heartbeat of play. If any two players totally exemplify Greed Island's spirit, its essence, like purpose, it's these two boys right here. Ging, absentee father, enigmatic, mischievous, paradoxical, whatever you want to call Ging. But he built this game to reward curiosity and ingenuity and just straight up joy as much as raw strength. Gon's continual willingness to risk a straightforward, easy victory for the sake of competition fulfills Jing's deepest wish that his son not merely survive Greed Island, but experience its essence to its fullest. And so, in refusing to do anything easy or underhanded, Gon honors his father's ethos most faithfully. And that's beautiful. But then, moving on to what's hilarious, it was hilarious how Killua was the one all about making it a competition, taking the quiz separately, even being the one to suggest a penalty to the loser. But then, once the quiz actually started, he was already stumped on the very first question, while Gon looked calm, cool, and collected and confident through the whole thing. Killua is really smart. Duh. We've seen just how ingenious, tactical, cunning, quick thinking, adaptable, hyper observant he is. You can name so many other adjectives. But As soon as the first question comes, that boy we've come to admire for his razor sharp instincts and tactical genius is caught completely off guard. This is not his strong suit. I actually did think Gon would excel in the quiz. I feel like Gon really paid attention to everything they were doing and going through. Each card collected, every interaction, every encounter. Gon is very present from moment to moment. He's a mental sponge, taking everything in. Killua has been the strategic anchor of the duo, rapidly deciphering opponents and their nen abilities, improvising escape plans under fire, adapting to all these multiple changing conditions in an instant. Yet here, some, by comparison, low stakes trivia test, he freezes. Killua's strengths lie in those, dynamic real-time problem-solving combat scenarios where things like pattern recognition, rapid decision-making, and adaptation, those things reign supreme. A question about game lore is very different. Very specific, particular memory. That's a whole another piece of your brain. It's kind of like in school, in history class or in reading class, I was very good at memorizing years and dates and events. Others were not. But I was not good at remembering names or definitions. I would have to study so much more to memorize, key concepts or names and definitions, where my mind could, instantly remember, key events, dates, years, visualize timelines like that, or memorize numbers. Intelligence comes in many forms, is what I'm trying to say. Togashi reminds us, even the most brilliant minds have their blind spots. Meanwhile, Gon, his youth and his enthusiasm and his innate empathy all drive him to soak up every last minute detail of his surroundings. Gon has the ability to anchor himself fully in each experience. Gon asks questions and he listens. He's so curious, and that pays dividends. It pays dividends to be curious. And after that, they win the quiz. Why would those two antagonists, the Bellum brothers or whatever they're called, think they could possibly beat Gon, let alone the duo, trio, squad who acquired all 100 cards? You've been in this game. You know how hard that is. Nobody in a decade has done it. That alone means something. But I mean, also, aren't Genthru, Bara, and Sub literally right there in the field somewhere off screen, just, a few yards away, defeated and tied up for everyone to see? Everyone can clearly see Gon defeated the most feared person on this island, the bomber. Why would you think you have a chance? Are you idiots? Yes, you are, because you just got dispatched in literally the blink of an eye, not even a second. Boom, boom, they disappeared. Boom, boom, you're lying flat on the floor. What did you think it was going to happen? But we see Abengane finally make his way back to Genthru. He didn't teleport to Gon's location for Gon. He teleported for Genthru to touch his shoulder and say, I caught the bomber. The burden of that giant worm creature thing wrapped around his body dissipated in that blue smoke and escaped. Genthru asked during his fight with Gon, who told you about my abilities? I wonder if in that moment Genthru got his answer, wondering, who the hell was that just now underneath that robe? I've never seen that person before. Again, this makes me wonder how the hell his ability is going to work with Chrollo. Abengane can exercise Nen, but he absorbed the cursed Nen condition into his own body, or onto his own body. He like becomes the vessel of whatever was afflicting someone else. Kind of like a parasite. The big writhing worm that coiled around him is the image of that. The manifestation of that. Abingane will have to be the one to carry the burden of the creature for Crollo. And that creature is going to be fucking huge. Because cleansing Kurapika's chain around Crollo's heart is a way more intricate and intense and serious deal than I feel Genthru's countdown bomb. You know, I think Abingane is going to find out he's walking into way more than he bargained for. Abingane also said a very important line after this moment, which reinforces what I've been saying for almost probably 6 or 7 or 8 or who knows by now episodes. He said, "Those boys are much stronger than when I first met them, but they're still weaker than Genthru in raw power. They must have executed a brilliant plan." That is exactly what I have been saying in discussion after discussion, each episode for a long while now. One of Togashi's central conceits, central themes, the greatest victories seldom, if ever, come from sheer force alone. Time and again, characters armed with a clear plan, deep understanding of Nen, and in unshakable presence of mind, overturn seemingly insurmountable odds and opponents who rely on raw power or raw output. I must sound like a broken record at this point. How many times have I said intelligence, planning, preparation, understanding, and other things of the like consistently beat raw power, brains over brawn. Opponents are puzzles to be understood, not defeated. You don't defeat a puzzle, you solve a puzzle. This is how Togashi continually keeps the writing tight and fresh. First, Hunter x Hunter is beyond mere action spectacle. But when there is action, it's never redundant. It's never simple. It's never stale. Because good writers think to themselves, okay, how do you keep growing the stakes? How do your characters grow when the stakes escalate? How do you make your characters grow beyond just making them more powerful? How do characters face their enemies? How do characters face an enemy they can't overpower? Good writers know the answer is never just get stronger. It's think smarter, prepare better, know yourself, know your opponent, and be present. Just like good writers gotta think smarter. Good writers gotta prepare their worlds and stories better. Good writers have to understand more. The exhilaration of a perfectly executed plan is so much more, at least to me, than the exhilaration of watching a straight up beatdown. These kinds of victories carry more valuable weight because they demand that quality writing. But within the story, they require, for our characters and for it requires patience and study and sometimes serious cost from our characters. You know, in life, as in any fictional story, not just Hunter x Hunter and Nen, raw talent can open doors, but only insight and strategy and mindfulness let you walk through those doors with purpose. Hunter x Hunter is mind over muscle. Every major triumph for the characters we love are triumphs of planning, adaptation, and deep understanding. Togashi makes Hunter x Hunter remind you genius isn't born out of power Genius isn't born out of power, but of the curious spirit that asks, what if? And then follows that with, what then? In this world of hunters, the sharpest weapon is not the strongest fist, but the clearest thought. And that's what I love so much about Hunter x Hunter. Now here's where Abengane lost me a little bit. Abengane said, no matter, I'll let you have the reward for beating the game. I'll head back to reality and make a fortune exercising Nen. Abengane says that like he's never thought of that before. That's what I never really even understood in the first place. Why was Abengane ever even here on Greed Island in the first place? He could have already been making so much money in the outside world, making a name for himself as a Nen exorcist. I'm sure there's no shortage of clientele needing his services with the moolah to pay for it. Also, I'm not sure how much money he'll ultimately end up making. His first client is Crollo. He'll make a lot of money from that. The Phantom Troop will spend whatever amount of money to get their leader back. He'll make a lot of money from this house call, exercising Crollo's Nen, but that might be such a grand task, biting off more than he can chew. The creature that spawns from that ritual exorcism might be so big and ugly and burdensome that it might just smother him to the point he can't even move or do anything afterwards. Also, the overconfidence and arrogance from him to say, I'll let you. I'll let you. Slow your horses. Talking like he's allowing Gon to win. Talking like the only reason Gon is going to win is because Abengane has better things to do and is letting him win. What could he possibly do to Gon or to stop Gon? His Nen exorcism ability is so niche, it's essentially useless in pretty much any and every other scenario imaginable besides just cleansing himself or cleansing someone else. What can Abengane do combat-wise? You know, I feel like Gon could just kick his ass. The only reason I can say why he chose to join entering the game was for like recognition's sake, but even that sounds dumb. I don't know. Now, I will give it to Abengane that without him surviving and teleporting to our trio, Gon and the others would have had no clue whatsoever that Genthru was the bomber and how his abilities worked. So I will give him that. Without Abengane, who knows if Gon could have ever faced Genthru, let alone finish the game. But still reads as overconfident. You know, with him being hired by the Phantom Troop, he might now value his Nen ability so highly that he assumes no conventional prize can match its worth. He's putting himself up on the pedestal. He might even expect the Phantom Troop to want to recruit him, which is not the worst idea. There's some slots open for sure, but like I said, he has no combat utility at all. Abengane, even as a character, really only exists as a plot device, you know, to move the Genthru drama forward and to bring Crollo back into the fray, back into the story. I doubt we'll ever see him again. But our boy Gon does win. Take that, Abengane. They fast travel to Lamero. Gon proceeds alone, walking up the castle stairs. And I love the subtle, affectionate smile you see on Killua's face as he watches Gon walk into the castle. As Biscuit says, he might meet Ging after all, the father he's been searching for all this time. The stairs Gon walks up can be kind of seen, at least to me upon second watch, kind of like another rite of passage. Maybe it's just the fact that they were like these ancient looking stone stairs, and that's always kind of given off that symbolism of a a path to power or knowledge. He's finally made it to the end of his father's game. And by walking alone, he claims ownership of this journey. Right now, he doesn't need any protection or coaching. It's all him. Will he finally stand face to face with the man whose absence shaped his entire life? The expression on Killua's face, gazing with this warmth and affection at his best friend's moment right here, kind of gets me thinking. We know he doesn't meet his father just yet in today's episode, but whenever Gon does, how will that make Killua feel? Will Killua feel like a happy relief seeing his friend's longing finally fulfilled? Or will it kind of be like, will it be cathartic, ambivalent? You know, will it be a different feeling knowing that their shared adventure will likely shift irrevocably from that point forward? Like, oh, well, we reached the goal. What now? Would that even like scare Killua a little bit? Gon is greeted by List, and then he meets Dwun. Dwun is messy as hell. Narratively, I see it as, kind of reflecting the years of isolation and neglect and boredom on Greed Island. Being in this castle for so long, a decade, doing nothing. No player had ever completed the game, come to visit them at the castle. They've been waiting for Gon, waiting for anyone really. And so this much trash has accumulated. Greed Island was released in 1987, and they had been building it for some time before then too. By the time Gon arrives, the game's already existed for a decade. No victor. All the other game masters, but especially Dwun, have had no incentive to tidy their surroundings. Like, Dwun hadn't been expecting company for over a decade. What do I got to clean up for? On the flip side, Dwun could just be, purely supposed to visually realize and represent Togashi and be a parody of him. We know he had a notoriously messy living space back in the day. I think even before he became well known from YYH and Hunter x Hunter. So Dwun can just be a sort of self-deprecating joke from Togashi himself. He just drew himself into the story. And I love how Dwun has to dig through all the clutter and garbage to find Ruler's blessing. It's the card's just laying around somewhere among all the piles of trash. It's been sitting unclaimed for 10 years, collecting dust. You find it, like, gotta blow that dust off. Dwun stopped thinking of taking care of it. I'm surprised I didn't lose it. Dwun offers Gon two endings. One just for him, or the normal ending. Gon chooses the normal ending. He says, since he didn't get all the way here alone, the normal ending sounds like it means his friends could join and watch with him. He wants his friends who helped get him here to be with him and be able to celebrate with him. I love that. Victory and triumph is best celebrated together. His journey, collecting all 100 cards, surviving these deadly battles, mastering Nen just a little bit more, was not some lone solitary accomplishment, but a collaborative adventure. Gon embodies Hunter x Hunter's theme that achievement is measured more by the bonds forged along the way. Gon doesn't see winning as personal glory just for him. He sees it as, the opportunity to always honor those who stand by him. And there's another message left for Gon. There's a message List and Dwun were told to give Gon only after he beat the game. Again, Ging was so confident over a decade ago in his son beating this game. He told his friends that long ago to anticipate his son coming to the island and beating the game. Remember this message. For a decade, List and Dwun have been sitting on this message, waiting, biding their time for Gon to come and reach the end and win to give this message. Just like with Razor, who was waiting for a decade to meet Gon and not go easy on him when the time comes to face off. Ging told all his friends about his son, proud of his son and his son's accomplishments a decade in advance before they would even play out. Unwavering faith in Gon's ability to master Nen, to navigate all sorts of trials and tribulations, and solve the most complex puzzles to get here. Gon's journey to beating Greed Island was not a gamble. It was a foregone conclusion in Jing's mind. And so, it is confirmed now that Ging was the man in charge of Greed Island. This was all his idea, his creation in his mind, and he made friends and enlisted his friends' help to make his vision a reality. Ging also knew he couldn't do everything alone. He won people over, made friends, specifically asked 10 of his friends, likely with large amounts of aura or powerful Nen, Hatsu, useful Hatsus, who helped materialize the game. Just like Gon, who's made friends along the way, winning people over, each with their own strengths. A small or large, whatever, they've helped Gon, guided Gon, and impacted Gon's journey to finding his father. This is really like father, like son right here. And we learn there are 10 game masters along with Ging. And we've met 5. I, S, A, N, and the second D are the other 5 game masters we've never seen and likely will never meet, if they're even crucial to the game's functioning like Razor is essential. Or if what responsible for key roles that they might have, like Ita and Elena, who are in charge of, entry and exit. Maybe they're on the island, but personally I would say probably not. I feel like if the other game masters were on the island, they would want to meet Jing's son face to face, see the kid who has been talked about for a decade, who I assume this game was designed for. They would want to show up. Just my thoughts. And in this, we also see flashback to a young Ging. And I always get so excited for that. Tank top, no headband, hair almost like a mullet, but also kind of looking like Yusuke. Looking so young. He's standing either in the entrance room or the exit room of the game, because we can see the room he's in, that all digital display spherical room that Etta and Elena operate in. So when Dwun came into the group, the timeline's kind of weird, but I'm just trying to think of okay, when Dwun came into the group, the game was already, starting to come together, but they hadn't decided on a name yet. And they were well into construction by the time they settled on the name. They settled on the word greed. It starts with G for Ging. But it would only work if Dwun dropped the W at the beginning of his name. Again, it's kind of difficult to piece the timeline together. In my mind, I'm trying to figure out if we have any lore or enough lore to figure out when Ging came up with the idea of Greed Island, when he met each friend, when he or they started building Greed Island, if different friends came in at different stages of its construction. Because we see Ging with Razor And Ging looks completely different than how he does in the flashback with Dwun. The ending Dwun was talking about ends up being a whole parade hosted for Gon. And Gon did get to include his friends, Killua and Biscuit, sitting next to him on the parade float. I was hoping to see some familiar faces in the crowd, but nobody stood out. I was staring at my screen paused, just analyzing every person in the background. If there was a cameo or an Easter egg or character we've met before who came to cheer for Gon, I would have loved that. Same for the party hosted for them. You have Dwun dancing in the front, but I was looking at all the background characters, trying to spot any Easter egg or character we know. I think the girl with the ponytail and headband is the patch of beach or patch of shore. Is the patch of beach girl, but I'm not sure, and who cares? That's literally it. That's the closest thing to like some past character. After the party, the three of them sit together thinking, which cards do we take? Killua brings, hey, why don't we each pick one? But that's not even what ends up happening. Biscuit gets to choose Blue Planet. She loves it. But Gon effectively chooses 2 cards for himself. He chose Paladin's necklace and chose Accompany. But you can't choose a spell card, so he camouflages it with Transform, and so makes it Patch of Shore, so that he can then use Paladin's necklace to cleanse the effect and have Accompany again once they're out. Killua never chooses a card for himself, which I think aligns perfectly with Killua's present personality and affection to Gon. Killua didn't want anything out of this game, not before or after hearing about the prize or rewards. He doesn't care about the money. Sure, last episode, 1 billion Jenny in the bank is great, but his family is richer than that. You know, he can blow that amount of money at one arcade machine in town. He doesn't care about the cards either. He didn't go into Greed Island for himself. He went to join and follow his friend Gon and help him find his father. He's just along for the ride, adventuring with his friend, finding himself along the way. I don't think this is Gon being selfish either. Gon came to Greed Island for a reason. If he thinks these cards can help him find his dad, then he has every right to pick these 2 cards for himself, especially since Killua didn't object at all to Gon's idea. He enthusiastically went along with it, agreeing with the clever strategy that this is the only way to smuggle this card out. Even when Biscuit asked, are you sure about the 2 cards you picked? Killua is the one to say, yes, they're the 2 best ones. Best ones for what? For helping Gon. That's what Killua cares about. They leave the game. Gon says goodbye to Elena, tells her, thank you. Her eyes brighten and she smiles, saying, you remembered my name. Thank you. And as Gon leaves, she smiles. She's looking at Jing's son. He did it. Probably thinking, Gon is a good kid. Whoever raised him well. Told her, thank you, and remembered her name. Gon is absolutely insane, but he's a little gentleman. I'm sure Gon could easily remember everyone's name and face he's ever come across. His memory never forgetting anyone. I don't know. It felt like a touching interaction between Gon and Elena. It's not really like Etta's job, where she gets to greet players as they enter the game, explain the rules to new players, and get them sorted out. People leaving the game just, leave and walk out. They're not saying thank you or remembering the random lady they walked past to leave. Also, no one had ever won before. She has the job of taking the 3 Greed Island cards and making it so the winner can leave the game with them. And it's been a decade of just sitting there doing the same job, waiting for someone to win. This world, I imagine, can be very impersonal and boring for the game masters. So this small act of recognition cuts through the ritualized roles each game master plays. Maybe she's been starved of even the tiniest bit of personal connection amid her decade of duty. Is she even allowed to move from that spot? Is she always working? Can she even visit her twin? Gon sees her as an individual, a friend of his father's. And so in a way, Gon even kind of honors her by saying thank you. The collective effort she was a part of, the legendary, iconic, the legacy of Greed Island. This place meant to be a test and playground for her friend Jing's son. We also discover that Gon was really lucky to have been the first to enter the game way back when. When Gon entered the game, he was alone. Obviously, no one around, being the first one to enter. But interestingly enough, his book showed another player already on the list when there shouldn't have been. How is this possible? Gon deduces he must have been to Greed Island once before already, when he was a baby. Who would he have been with? Well, his father, of course. The anagram was already dangerously close. Thank God Jing's name wasn't Ginger. Then that would have been awful. Now, I don't know how this necessarily works. Did baby Gon have to wear a ring? It would be cool if that was the ring in the box along with the memory card. Or was that not a thing yet? How early in development was Greed Island when Ging took Gon to Greed Island? It had to have, would it had to have been before the console was made and the teleporting and the Nen restrictions, and Ging could have just, traveled to the island itself instead of being teleported. This theorizing, of course, is also under the assumption of what Gon is suggesting is even true. Gon could be wrong. I'm just following what his theory is. This could be, like I said, a completely false guess from Gon, because we know this is not going to be Ging that Gon and Killua just used Accompany to fly to. This is probably yet another trick Ging employed to keep his son on a wild goose chase. But this is what I'm talking about. The timeline is very confusing. Ging probably thought of the idea for a game all about hunting because he simply loves hunting. A game about hunting would be able to help you become a better hunter. Who does he want to become a better hunter? Gon. And that's where he probably thought about Gon. But in order to think about Gon and to build Greed Island as a playground training ground for Gon, your son would have had to exist and be alive already. You wouldn't, build a game for a son you don't have yet, who doesn't exist, especially not someone like Ging, who most likely didn't even plan on ever having kids, and Gon was an accident or something that just fell upon him. So when Gon was born, his idea or priority for the game maybe changed. That's, again, the timeline is confusing. The timeline makes me think Ging had to have gone back and forth to and from Whale Island with Gon multiple times, because either Ging built Greed Island while the mother was pregnant and he knew the sex of the baby, which is why he always referred to his kid as his son to his friends, and he was anticipating a child. Again, there's so many ideas about who Gon's mother is, if Gon had a mother, blah, blah, blah. Because, like, it could be Gon just popped up out of nowhere, which would beg the question of how the hell was he born and where did he come from? Was Gon born, then brought to Greed Island as a baby when it was completed, and then brought to Whale Island and dumped off for Mito to take care of? And he gave her the box with the ring and the memory. I forgot if it said if or when he gave that box to Mito. Like, I forget if it said he gave her the box at a later date, or if he gave it to her when he dropped Gon off, or like if he came back to Whale Island like a few more times. That I don't remember. Or was Gon born, dropped off at Mito's, Greed Island finished, Ging came back for Gon, brought him to Greed Island, then dropped him off again? Both options make total sense and not that much sense at the same time. Again, the timeline confuses me. But let's talk about my favorite part of the episode. Biscuit asks Gon, "What will you do once you find Ging?" And Gon says, like, well, naturally, of course, obviously, I'll introduce him to Killua, my best friend in the world. This embarrasses Killua. He tells Gon to cut it out. He blushes, and Killua's cheeks turn red, just like at the beginning of Greed Island many episodes ago, when Gon thanked Killua for coming with him and thanking him for being his friend. Greed Island ends the same way it began. The same emotions, tugging at the same heartstrings. Gon openly expressing his gratitude and affection for Killua, and Killua, not knowing how to accept those words, gets embarrassed. Though on the inside, we know he's feeling and saying the same thing he did back then too. In that earlier episode at the beginning of Greed Island, when Gon thanks him for being his friend and coming along, Killua is all embarrassed. But we got filled into Killua's inner monologue where he said, "No, I should be the one thanking you." And here in this episode, Killua on the outside is likewise embarrassed. But I'm sure in Killua's mind, he's saying, "You're my best friend too." Both times, Gon's open confession of affection collapses any distance between them. And Killua's bashful reaction shows how deeply those words affect him. Structurally, the entire Greed Island arc begins and ends with that same tender heartbeat. After every trial Greed Island threw at them, their bond hasn't changed at all. If anything, it's even stronger. Hunter x Hunter repeatedly tells us that power on its own is empty, it's hollow, it's lonely. It's friendship and trust and shared purpose that gives strength all of its meaning. By bookending the arc with Gon's words of gratitude, Togashi is saying what carries these boys through impossible odds and dangerous circumstances isn't raw nen power, 1 in 10 million kids or anything shallow or superficial like that, but their devotion to each other as friends. Introducing Killua to Ging wouldn't just be a courtesy. It would be Gon saying, "My journey has always been a shared one. I never did it alone." Ging may be a legendary hunter and by blood his father, but Gon's true family, aside from Mito, who raised him, is the bond forged with Killua. You don't get to choose your family, but you choose who is in your life afterwards. Blood is not always thicker than water. Killua is Gon's brother. That's family. And, you know, this arc is ending. A new one begins next episode. And that's what this is saying. We're turning the page. Every arc has kind of had a moment like this. It kind of acts as the tether connecting the story. You know, like, no matter where the next adventure takes them, their friendship remains the constant, their North Star. Without Killua, there is no adventure for Gon. It would kind of just stop there. Anytime the adventure hasn't been with Killua, it has been an adventure to find Killua, to get Killua back in his life. The only time the two have been separated was the Zoldyck estate arc. The only time Killua wasn't with Gon was the time Gon was trying to get Killua back. He put the hunt for his father on hold for Killua. That speaks volumes. Any opportunity for adventure in the future without Killua would likewise again be put on hold for the adventure, instead to first be reuniting with Killua or finding Killua, then moving forward. Like I said, without Killua, there is no adventure for Gon. Gon's story would end there. The greatest treasures we find on any quest or adventure are the people who walk beside us on those quests and adventures. This whole thing makes Biscuit cry. She blames it on her age. You know, anything will make her cry these days. She doesn't accept Gon's invitation to come with them on their next adventure. She says she isn't interested in men who already have kids, which I just thought was hilarious. You see this little girl that looks like Gon's age talking about Gon's dad, and she says something like that reminds you there's a 50-something-year-old grown woman in that body, older than Gon's dad, single and ready to mingle, a little cougar, but she just ain't interested in dating a man with kids right now. That's such a funny, quick line. Some people might not even catch it. I thought it was hilarious. But let's get serious about Biscuit. In her head, she seriously thinks to herself, if she did go with them, then she really would get attached to them. They really would become like her kids in my eyes. Or she'd be the fun aunt. I know Mito is technically Gon's aunt, but she's really his mom. So, you know, I think of Biscuit could be his aunt. And Biscuit's been more of a motherly figure to Killua than his own mother likely has. To be frank, to be honest. Mito may be Gon's legal guardian, but she's never shared in his adventures. Biscuit's been at Gon's and Killua's side, guiding them through every new Nen breakthrough, every scrape and cut and bruise, every challenge. She was kind of like an aunt, mother, and teacher for them. And so in return, they kind of offered her like a sort of chosen family, a bond with each other. And I think she says no for her own sake. She's probably so used to traveling and adventuring solo. She's in this disguise, probably very hard to form relationships or connections. So, just a bond with others. And so how uncommon it is to find two kids who are Nen users and hunters, gems to be polished, who accept her in their group. She can fit in with her image. She probably would get super attached to them. That's like winning the lotto ticket for her. Emotionally, Biscuit has been that unflappable tutor. All the precise training schedules, her razor sharp razor sharp in her critique and teaching. We see this sudden crack in her armor that we haven't before, showing how she craves that connection or that kind of affection, even as she's scared of it, scared of attachment. That's why she makes the joke how she's not interested in chasing after a guy with a teenage son. She's diffusing the moment to regain her composure and get that control back. But in her thoughts, she admits if she did join, she'd become attached, and she would risk the pain when it eventually ended. I think she does have an almost maternal love for them. She's shown concern for them, for both of them, that has read more like a worry for children she can't abandon or doesn't wish to see hurt than, purely the anxiety of a master teaching her students. It felt like more than that. Tagashi didn't have to convey it directly or so heavily or so obviously. I think the story naturally does a good job of kind of letting you make up the story yourself. That Biscuit mostly lives in isolation, so her emotions have been honed in isolation. So when there's connection and companionship, she's afraid to deepen that, especially with those so much younger than her. She puts on this disguise, but her true form will outgrow and outlive most people she could care for. Who knows how long she'll be able to live to. She's over 50 now and looks 12. And like I said, how rare is it for Biscuit, a 50-something-year-old Nen master disguised as an adolescent girl, to stumble upon two 12-year-olds who are both natural hunters and fast learners. Perfect for her. Someone who looks for gems in need of polishing. That's almost impossible. That she fits so seamlessly into their ragtag team. For someone so used to solitude, finding companionship in a friend group that accepts her size, her age, her secrets, that's probably really destabilizing and makes her really emotionally vulnerable. And I think ultimately, Biscuit's refusal is self-preservation for her, as well as also doing the best thing for Gon and Killua too, to be on their own and be independent. If she joined them, one, she'd grow fiercely attached. Also, she'd be another person that Gon and Killua would have to worry about. And I don't think Biscuit wants to be that burden. And in the world of Hunter x Hunter, the Hunter world, every adventure ends. Every road forks. We've experienced that every time Kurapika has left to go down his own path. Every time Leorio has left to go down his. You know that as readers of the manga with every new hiatus that has come. Saying no is Biscuit's way of protecting herself, and them too, from the pain of her inevitable departure, or if something bad happened. She'd rather live with the memory of their adventures together on Greed Island and end it there on a happy note. And rather live with the memory of that invitation than risk the sadness and sorrow of growing apart or separating or being left behind or someone dying or whatever else her mind tells her could happen. So they say their goodbyes. They use Accompany to fast travel away. A new arc begins. The main question we're left with, that I'm left with at the end of this episode, is who in the hell did Gon and Killua just fast travel to? Who the hell is fishing on that riverbank? Because that sure as hell ain't Ging. Who is that? And so, I'll have to wait and see in episode 76, and that is where I'm going to end today's discussion. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button to let me know, and subscribe to the channel to stay in the loop on our journey. Keep the conversation going down today in the comments below. And if you're interested in early access, unedited reactions, and exclusive content, check out my Patreon. Having said all that, and with that said, so long, until next time, thank you, have a good one, peace.